Hi everyone, I'm attorney Aiden Durham with 180 Law Co. in Denver, Colorado, and you're watching All Up in Your Business. Continuing on with the trend of the week, we are still talking about online businesses and, more importantly, in light of the coronavirus pandemic that's going on right now, how you can start a business when you can't leave your house. And so in this episode, we're going to talk about another really important document for your online business or your website, which is the privacy policy. But before we get into it, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to check the description for some additional resources and information there too. So yesterday we talked about terms and conditions or terms of use for your website. I said, legally, these aren't required. There's no real law that says that we have to have terms and conditions on our website. But even though it's not legally required, it's still a really, really good idea. The privacy policy, on the other hand, isn't just a really good idea. It is actually required. So this is something that pretty much every online business actually needs to have. If you collect any kind of personal information, whether it be a name, email address, phone number, mailing address, any kind of personal information, then you need a privacy policy on your website. And this just becomes even more and more important the more personal information you're collecting. So especially if you collect sensitive personal information like social security numbers or medical history, regardless of the nature of the information, if you collect any kind of information from people who visit your website, then you need a privacy policy. A lot of third-party apps and plugins that we use on our websites, like Google Analytics or Stripe credit card processors, many of those third parties have separate requirements for our privacy policies. They state in their terms and conditions what we need to put in our privacy policies if we want to use those tools on our website. So aside from the legal requirement, there is this contractual requirement with any third-party apps that we might use on our websites too. In the United States specifically, the probably biggest privacy law that we know about right now is in California. And California has privacy requirements for any business that collects personally identifiable information from California residents. So what that means is this doesn't just apply to California businesses. This applies to any business that collects information from California residents. So even if you're outside of California, if California residents visit your website and might submit your contact form or might comment on your blog, then that's enough for you to be subject to these privacy requirements that California puts out. Similarly, the European Union has GDPR, which governs privacy of personal information of citizens of the European Union. And so again, just like California, even if your business isn't actually located in the EU, if you collect any kind of information, personal information from people in the EU, then you're subject to those GDPR requirements too. So with all of these different requirements going on and different jurisdictions telling us what we need to do, it can be kind of confusing figuring out what exactly needs to be in our privacy policies. And just like everything else, this is going to completely depend on the nature of your website, the type of information that you collect on your website, the tools and the apps that you have on your website. That's all going to impact how your privacy policy needs to read and what needs to be included in it. But at a bare minimum, there are a handful of things that every privacy policy should include. The first, of course, is the contact information and name of the business. Number one thing with this privacy is people's access and their ability to get information about what kind of data we have on them. So most importantly is that they can contact us. So your privacy policy needs to include your business name and some contact information for how people can get in touch with you regarding their privacy and their data. Your privacy policy should disclose what types of data or what types of personal information you collect from your website. So for example, this would be like we collect your name and phone number or name and email address that you provide to us through a contact form on our website. Or we collect information that you post as a comment or a contribution to our website. You would also want to say things like we collect demographic information like your location, age, and gender if you're using something like Google Analytics where you can get that data. And then also we collect your behavioral history through cookies and when you landed on this page and your traffic and your interactions with our website. If you collect that type of data, then you need to tell your website visitors that that's what you're collecting. And you also want to disclose how you're collecting that information. So again, you can say we collect this information when you submit a contact form or when you register for one of our promotions or our giveaways or when you sign up or opt in for our email newsletter. Whatever the modes or methods you take to collect that information, you need to disclose that as well. And then we need to tell our website visitors why we're collecting that information. It's not enough to tell them what we're collecting. We need an actual reason. We need to let them know why we're collecting it. A few common acceptable reasons in a privacy policy for collecting information would be for customer service purposes, to fulfill orders or to respond to your inquiries or requests, or for market research purposes, or for doing promotions and marketing. Whatever the reasons for collecting that information, that needs to be disclosed. And then how you use that data. So we are giving them the what kind of information we collect, how we collect it, why we collect it, and now we're telling them how we use that information. So again, the reasons for using personal information that we collect through our websites, again, customer service or responding to inquiries, fulfilling service requests, or it could be to fulfill legal obligations or court orders. Or another common use of that data, especially for some of the data like within your website, like how your visitors interact with your website, a lot of that is used to improve website speed or improve the function of your website or to improve the quality of your products or services. Whatever it is, it's important to disclose in your privacy policy how you use that data once it's been collected. And also not only how you use it, but how you share it with any third parties. So if you have analytics, a Google Analytics tool on your website, or if you do advertising and you share your data with advertisers, that personal information that you're collecting about, their demographics or their location or their internet behavior, you're sharing that information with Google or with your advertisers or with service providers. If you hire, let's say, a marketing person who's going to create newsletters and send them out to your entire email list. You're sharing your contact information, your email list with that service provider. So that's something that needs to be disclosed, the nature of how you use that information and share it with third parties. And then finally, we need to tell website visitors how they can opt out of getting their information collected in this nature and how they can contact us to find out what kind of information we have on them. So in most jurisdictions, people whose information we hold, they have a right to know what kind of information we have on them, or to correct it or to have it removed from our systems or from our database. And so we need to give them clear information about how they can opt out. So this is typically something easy, like you can opt out by hitting the unsubscribe button on our emails, or If your website, if your service is some kind of a membership or an account where people have to log in and they have an account dedicated to them, it can be something like you can opt out by changing the email or notification settings in your account. Again, this depends on the nature of your website and your services, but we need to tell people, and people need a easy way of opting out of having their information collected or getting communications from us because of that information. And then again, remember, I mentioned this in the beginning, but tools like Google Analytics, credit card processors, any other kind of plugins or apps that we might use on our website, those are often going to have their own requirements for what we need to put into our privacy policies. So it's important to check any of those terms of use or terms of service for those products or those apps too. The biggest idea behind privacy policies and why all this exists is transparency and being forthright with website visitors about their information and giving them the rights to protect their personal information. That's all for this episode, folks. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. And don't forget to check the description for more resources and information. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Aiden Durham, and I'll see you next time.